It's very exciting to bring everybody together who's involved in this and succeed in making the environment for the workers who are going to build our nation's highways better.
It's worth doing, huh?
Absolutely.
For more than a decade, NAPA, working with key partners, has revolutionized how paving industry worker health, safety, and environmental issues are approached and resolved. The blueprint created by this partnership has resulted in effective and sensible solutions. In fact, it has become a national model. In 2008, after substantial planning and deliberation, NAPA and core partners collaborated on the testing of 2 worker health issues. In Indiana and Wisconsin, NAPA coordinated with NIOSH, the Heritage Research Group, the Laborers and Operating Engineers Unions, the Harvard School of Public Health, Boston University School of Public Health, and Indiana hot mix contractors to conduct field tests. These tests were designed to answer the questions: what are the source and nature of worker exposures in the paving environment? Is there a difference between inhalation exposures and skin exposures? And how can these exposures be minimized?
Going alone from an industry standpoint is a non-starter in my view. You have to bring in all the entities, be it the labor unions that represent the workers, to academia, to the federal government, the NIOSH, OSHA, depending on what the project is. But it works. The model really works.
I think it's wonderful. It's one of our biggest complaints within NIOSH, other than convincing people that we're not OSHA, is getting in a lot of buy-in sometimes from industry. Fortunately, you can encounter industry groups like NAPA and others where they see it as a net positive for both. We can go out, document exposures if they do occur or not, the type of exposures. We can bring in engineers, we can bring in toxicologists and occupational physicians. All those components can come together, and you know, if we can do a study, especially a large study like this with so much cooperation from so many different groups, we can probably come up with either get a good handle on what the type of exposures are, how these people are being exposed, and then simple interventions, hopefully, to decrease these exposures.
The dermal patches that are being used are a new design that are a bit more sophisticated than what we had used in the past. Through a collaboration with NIOSH and through conversations with the entire research group, we came up with this idea of a multiple layer patch that hopefully is going to do a better job of characterizing the exposure.
In a project like this, we're really trying to understand not only that they're exposed to things like asphalt fumes, but what else is in the environment that might be having some impact on them long term. So the study is really very broad-based in trying to understand what the exposures are and then how the workers are exposed. You know, is it through breathing or is it through the skin?
Well, it's really a follow-on to some work that we did maybe 7 or 8 years ago in an earlier study where we found that the amount of asphalt that people seem to be contacting through their skin might actually be a really important source of their exposures, because we measured their inhalation, we measured the amount that got on their skin, and then we measured the amount of the metabolite that they were excreting in their urine. And when you put all those factors together, it seemed like the skin was a really important source of their total exposure. So the idea here was to see if you could reproduce that finding, and the idea was you would have them wear protective gloves and long sleeve shirts to prevent the skin uptake and measure the amount that's in their urine, the amount that comes out, then have them wear the respirators like you see them wearing today, do the same round of measurements, and then compare that to a condition where they're not wearing either respirators or skin protection and see what the effect of that protection actually is. And that would help you zero in on what's the most important route that you should work on to prevent people's exposure.
From a company standpoint, this is vital information as far as protecting our workers and informing our workers as to the potential hazards of their occupation.
In Michigan, NAPA coordinated with NIOSH, the laborers and operating engineers unions, equipment manufacturers, and hot mix contractors on another series of field tests. These tests were designed to answer the question, how can potential for silica exposure surrounding asphalt milling operations be minimized?
This is a project involving potential exposure to silica.
Okay, ready, set, now.
The government wanted to do this research project. It's an important issue involving worker protection. When NIOSH talked to NAPA, the NAPA folks said, well, look, we're interested in this, but we have to have the manufacturers of the milling machines, we have to have the contractors who operate these machines, and we have to have the representatives of the unions who are the workers on these machines, and that's how we do business.
The National Asphalt Paving Association is very proactive when it comes to safety and health. And in them being proactive, they decided to take a hard look at milling machines and exactly what exposure milling machines presented to construction workers. As a result of that, we held a number of meetings with the different partners involved. We at some point determined that measuring silica exposure was not what we needed to do. What we needed to do was just control the dust. And in controlling the dust, no silica, no exposure.
NAPA is usually very proactive on this stuff, and thus their membership too. And they would like us to get to a point where they can confidently put these machines out on the road with good operating and maintenance practices, and the idea is to achieve this by, of course, suppressing the dust coming from the machine at the source, especially using water sprays like we're doing here.
For a variety of reasons, obviously, whether you're a contractor, whether you're a manufacturer, we like to have a certain measure of control of our own destiny. Getting in early on a project like this and being part of the test case, if you will, coming up with solutions that work well for the manufacturer as well as the customer as well as the labor, we feel like is a win-win for all parties, and typically they're a lot more cost effective.
Well, I think, the people are realizing that you accomplish a lot more working as a team. Because we're using assets from everybody, using the NIOSH laboratories and everything else. If we just decided to do this on our own, that would be a great expense that we would have to do. It also gives us an independent body looking at our work, so that, in the future we can come back and say, hey, we did it the right way.
The first meeting I went to, Gary made mention of an open book sharing process. That's new, it's welcomed. I understand the situation, and it's not just our company, it's an industry-wide problem, and we need an industry-wide solution.
I think it's really important that we all work together to accomplish the goal, and I think that through some of the meetings we've had as this partnership, we really saw an open line of communication between the manufacturers, all the groups, NIOSH sharing their expertise that they learned through the mining tests that they've done, all the manufacturers bringing their knowledge and expertise to the table. I think that open communication has really been important.
I think what we're seeing here today is the culmination of a lot of effort to try and enhance or bring together a test process where the data that's developed is easily comparable. And that's what you're seeing out here, is a controlled site, a safe site, and this is hard to duplicate in terms of a test site and a test process for each manufacturer. So there's a real positive benefit for the manufacturers to see this.
the goal of this is to take care of our workers, to protect them and keep them healthy. That really is the key to this, and you know, when the testing is all done and the data is compiled, that we end up with some type of best practices regulation that we can all live with in the real world.
We could not do this today without an industry of caring people, people who understand the importance of worker health and safety, and who can step up to the plate and help us resolve some issues.